23 tonight. Didn't put it in the bulletin, but the subject matter is, or the title of the subject is Because He Can. What I want to do as we start tonight is just put something up on the overhead, because I got the inspiration for this teaching from my horse. And I remembered I had had a picture made with him for some reason. I don't remember why. And I thought I'd just show everybody what he looks like. That was quite a while ago. He's retired now. It's my retired trick horse. Doc's doing time. He is a quarter horse, pretty standard quarter horse, and he turned 28 years old June 5th. And depending on who you follow in the horse community, many would say he would be around 90 in human terms. So anyway, that's the round yard where we train horses and so on. And that's me with him probably 10 years ago. And I thought maybe for people watching and people here tonight, we could get an idea of who we're talking about. I'm thinking of a little line in my little inspirational book, A Horse of a Different Color. Someone in the Seabiscuit movie asked the actor that played Tom Smith, why would you take time and energy to help or heal a lame horse? And he thought for a moment, and he said, I suppose because I can. And that's the way the Lord is looking at us tonight. We sometimes think to ourselves, why would God get involved in my life? Why would he do this for me? Or why should I expect him to solve that problem or move that mountain or lift that burden or heal that sickness? It's because he can. And it's a beautiful thing. And I just felt really strongly directed when this situation happened to me to go to Psalm 23. So I'll be referring to Doc throughout the message tonight. I hope it's not something prophetic. I hope he's going to hang around a little while longer. But so far, so good. What I want us to look at tonight together over Psalm 23, first of all, this concept of ownership, a matter of ownership, and then something we're kind of almost saving for the last bit of the evening, and that would be what I'm calling return to sender. When I went over this in my study, I found something absolutely mind-boggling at the very close of Psalm 23. So let's go through it together. And what I'll be doing is reading it as it is in the Old Testament text, but then also including very, very often the 70 translation. Again, that was the Bible of the time of Jesus. And so that's what they were reading, that's what they were hearing preached, hearing in the synagogues and so on. So here we are. Psalm 23, again, we're going to kind of look at it verse by verse. And we're thinking the title, Because He Can. You can think about my little horse there. Yahweh, my shepherd, I will not be lacking. I love that. There's no verb. Just we would put a colon there. Yahweh, it's like you'd say Billy Graham, evangelist, or Oral Roberts, healing. And the psalmist says, Yahweh, my shepherd, I will not be lacking. Another version has it, the Lord takes care of me as his sheep. Here's the 70. The Lord tends me as a shepherd, and I shall not want even one thing. Another version has it, he makes a resting place for me in green fields. That's where Doc comes in just a tick. The 70 there reads, in a place of green grass, there he made me to dwell. I love that. The word there is emphatic. And the picture is, God doesn't just let us find our way through life. When God does something for us, he does it in a way that is pleasant and that's a benefit. And that's why the writers of this Old Testament portion used a demonstrative pronoun there. In a place of green grass, there he made me dwell, not in a barren field, not underwater someplace, not hanging from a tree, but in a beautiful place of green grass. And this is exactly where tonight's message, again, originated. I went to the barn to feed the horses. We have two now, one new one we've had almost a year, Barb's new horse. He's about 4. He's an idiot. No, I'm sorry. He's a young horse, so he's not completely trained. He is an idiot, yeah. But a pretty idiot, but still. And then we have my horse. So went there to feed, and I gave Spirit his grain and put the hay in, and no dog. And I'm thinking, well, So I looked over the window, out the window. He's not there. I looked by the round yard. He's not there. I thought, well, what in the world? Where did he go? And I just went out through his stall door and looked up on the side of the paddock. There he is in a, what I call a, what's that famous show, Barb? Yeah, he's in a sleeping beauty position, which means he's laying in the grass. All 4 legs are bent like that, and he's sort of leaning. So his head's up from the grass, but he's just kind of leaning like that. Just as calm and peaceful as you could imagine a horse would be. And I thought, wow. Then I asked myself, how many horses are there in Greater Cincinnati? Quite a number of them. But how many of them got the Joe's Deli We Deliver treatment? But I thought, you know what? That big goof would just try to suck his grain down and get Doc's anyway. Maybe it's good that he doesn't know where Doc is right now. So I went ahead and I got some food, and I decided to take it up to him. I decided to deliver. And I love this. Think about this. God ministers to everyone, but he's not obligated to do that. Have you ever thought about that? I've had people tell me, well, wait a minute. Why do I have to make some kind of a special connection with Jesus? Why do I have to pray a particular prayer or this, that, or the other? You know, I've asked God for help, and he helps me. I pray, hey, God, you know, can you do this for me? Or can you do the other? Or I asked God to do this, and guess what? He did it. Why do I have to do any more than that? Doesn't that prove that I'm a child of God? And one time when someone came in the altar line to ask me that, I told them, I said, you know what? When my old man was alive, if you had a problem that he could solve and you asked him, he probably would solve it for you. If you had a need of some kind that he could fill, if you asked him in the right way, my dad would probably do it for you. But those things don't make my dad your dad. And they just look like, you know, they'd been hit by a brick. But I think that gets the point across. That's the way things work. God can do anything he wants for anyone that he wants, but he's not obligated to. Not everyone is his child by regeneration. We're all his child by creation, but not by regeneration. So there it is. I look in the distance. He's in the black beauty pose and totally at ease. So what did I do? I went up, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. And follow this, I did not do this with every horse in the greater Cincinnati area. I have no connection with them, right? But he's my horse. I trained him from a 2-year-old, and that's why I took care of him. It's the same with you. It's the same with me. God cares for us in a special and a more unique way. Let's continue. Psalm 23. In pastures of fresh growth, he will be causing me to lie down. Now get the picture. He's on the side of the paddock, surrounded by grass, laying in grass. The sun's on him. He doesn't really need anything, which is why he didn't bother coming down to the barn. Probably figured, you know what? It's not time to eat yet anyway. I'll just stay up here with the hay. There he was, just marking time, having a good old time in the sunshine. And I decided to do something for him. In pastures of fresh growth, Yahweh will be causing me to lie down. He was already lying down. You know what I did? I got his food in a little bucket, and I also got half of a granola bar and half of a banana. And I just took my time up there, and I thought, well, I wonder, is he going to see me shake and get up and go down to his... He didn't move. He just looked up at me, and I said, how you doing, old man? And I got down beside him, and I just gave him half a granola bar. He swallowed that. I gave him half the banana. That disappeared. And I just dumped the grain right on top of the grass, right in front of his nose. He didn't move other than just digging in. And I thought, mission accomplished. Now, I didn't have to do any of that, but I did because I wanted to. Didn't have to go the extra mile, but I did because I have a connection with him. God's got so many things that he doesn't need to do for you, for me, for any of his children, but he does it. Why, Pastor? The title of our message, because he can. He just enjoys seeing us happy. Beautiful, isn't it? Amen. The 70 reads like this on this verse. Upon the water of rest, he has nourished me. I love that. That word rest in the Greek Old Testament, again, that was used in the time of Jesus, it comes from the word anapapsis, which is a beautiful word. You find it in the New Testament a number of places. Ana means again, and the other part of that word means to rest. So that the picture is like an athlete that gets a second wind. You think he's just about to crap out, but he doesn't. He gets a second wind and maybe goes on to win the game or whatever. That's what it pictures, and it's in the New Testament in chapter 11 of Matthew's Gospel. Jesus is talking to his Jewish brethren that have been, for the most part, taken advantage of by crooked priests and Levites and Pharisees and Sadducees and ones that don't want anybody else to see. They were being taken advantage of. And this is what it says in Matthew 11. The Master himself is saying this, God in the flesh. He says, "Come unto me, all you who labor, having been heavily laden." In other words, someone put a load of heavy toil on your neck back in the day, and you're still carrying it, and you're still in trouble now. The feasts, fasts, the festivals, the rules, the rites, the rituals, they're just doing nothing for you. And he said, "Come unto me," and then he says, "Kago anapapsis," yeah, is the word. I will rest you. Anapapsis, I will rest you. Come to me, and it's emphatic, I will rest you. It's beautiful, isn't it? Now watch, it continues. He will be causing me to be lying down. He will be leading me beside the waters of resting place. My soul, he will be restoring. Have you ever had your soul restored by the Lord? It's a beautiful thing. And I would venture to say, more often than not, you and I and all believers get to a place in our walk with the Lord because of what's going on around us or because of what he's asking us to do that is being fought. We get tired, and sometimes we don't even know that we need a spiritual reset, a time of rest, a time of recouping, a time of refueling or restoration. We might be unaware of it, but he is not. Again, there I was at the barn, one stall with a horse, one stall without, looking around, no dock, and I saw him, and I kind of felt like, you know what, he's getting pushed around by the new guy anyway. Maybe we'll just give him something special, something extra, and I decided to take it to him. Now listen to this. He will be leading me in the worn paths of righteousness on account of his name. This is one of those places in the Bible where the name of God doesn't mean literally Yahweh or Jesus. It does not necessarily mean his literal name, but the word name can also mean his character. So the kinds of things he does reveal the kind of person he is. He's a father, he's a lover, he's a giver, he's a healer, he's a provider, he's a deliverer, he's an empowerer, you name it, and he does it. This is just his nature. So that's kind of what David is on about here when he says, he is leading me in the worn paths of righteousness on account of his name. In other words, he's faithful, he's trustworthy. He will never play you out or let you down. So let's go to the second half that I mentioned. We're going to finish with the return to sender thing. Save the best for last. And if you have questions, I'll just ignore them because I know what the questions are going to be about. But that's okay. Let's continue. Psalm 23. Here now, after all the good stuff, here's the entrance of the negatives in the midst of all of the positives. Now, none of us know anything about this, but we might have friends that do, so hopefully we should listen to this so we can tell them. Here it is. Even when I am walking in the valley of darkness. Did you notice? Even when, not if. In other words, this is not something that is very likely not going to happen. It's something that's very likely going to happen. Even when I'm walking in the valley of darkness. Another version has it, a valley death shadowed. Would you like to walk through a place and everywhere you look is a corpse? Everybody's dead, like one of these sci-fi movies after the aliens have come. Nobody wants that. Another version has it, this is really stark, a glen of doom. A place that's so dark and so deserted that you just kind of wonder not if something's going to happen, but when and how bad will it be. This is what's being described here. Now, here's another positive. I will not be fearing evil because you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they will be comforting me. Let me give you the 70 version of this verse. Even if, and it's likely, I'm walking in the midst of death's shadow, I will not be afraid of evils, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, again twice, they will comfort me. So this absolutely X's out and kicks away the self-made man concept. This was completely foreign to David, that attitude. It was always what God was going to do through him and for him. It was always God that was in charge for David. And in David's mind, as long as he knew that the presence of God was with him, he would make it. I've used this illustration a couple million times. I guess, I don't know what I owe Solomon for this, but I'm not going to pay him anyway. But when he was a little baby, a little boy, he would have not night terrors, but things that would scare him in the night. And a lot of times he would just walk into our room and just stand in the doorway. I could just see his little bald head, in the doorway, silhouette, yeah. And I'd say, what's up with you? And he'd say, scary thoughts. So I'd say, well, come on. And he'd come over and crawl in the bed with us. And it was the funniest thing. Nothing had changed, but he went to sleep. So there's something about the right person being with you that makes everything okay. I remember when I was a young fella, went to a wrestling match with my old man, and we were done with the wrestling match, and we were going back, huge number of people all over the sidewalks, every place, going to their cars and this and that. We were going to where we'd catch the bus, and it looked like a fight was breaking out. And I was very young, but I was old enough to know this wasn't a good thing. And my dad had these real heavy binoculars from World War II, and I watched him wrap the strap around the binoculars, and took a really good grip around his hand, yeah. And he's looking like this. He says, "Stick with me, Joey boy." And I thought, whoops. And he started walking really, really fast, almost took off into a run. I thought, oh, he's fixing to defend us from somebody. But it all worked out. But somehow or another, even though he seemed like he was a little concerned, I still felt okay because somehow, some way, I knew my old man was going to, he was going to fix it. I could depend on him to get me out of it. And he did. And we made it home okay on the bus. But this is the picture here. Now, I want to share something that I don't know if I've ever mentioned it before about Psalm 23. If I did, it doesn't hurt to repeat it because to me, it's really eye-opening. There's a fascinating possibility in this verse in the original text, the Hebrew text, not the Greek one, but the Hebrew one. Now, think about this with me. The word rod and your staff, they comfort me. The shepherd's rod, the shepherd's staff. In this case, not David, although he did that, but it would be Yahweh. In David's mind, it's Yahweh's rod, Yahweh's staff. Okay, there's an interesting possibility here. The word rod does mean that. A stick, a staff, a piece of wood, a sign of authority. Somebody's got the staff. Someone's got the whatever you want to call that. They're in charge, kind of like a scepter. That's a really good word for it. Yeah, stick, staff, piece of wood, scepter, sign of authority. I'm in charge. It's okay. But you know what? I looked this up, and there's also another meaning for this same Hebrew word. It does mean that. It does mean rod, stick, staff, piece of wood, sign of authority. But as I looked at all the places it appears in the Old Testament, equal, and I would say actually more often than that, the same word can mean a tribe or people group. Think about it. Your tribe, your people, and your staff, they comfort me. How beautiful is that? What is God saying? I think he's saying, in addition to what's obvious, he's saying we're not alone. We're not in this alone. We are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses that have already made it to the other side. I could stop there, couldn't I? What did you say, Pastor? I didn't say anything. The writer to the Hebrews said, we're compassed about with a great cloud of witnesses, and you can spin that any way you want. It still means they're encircling you. Well, I thought when you go to heaven, you go to heaven. Yeah, you do. Well, that kind of sounds like you can show up somewhere else. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? How many of you have heard someone say, you know what, my deceased mom appeared to me. My dad appeared to me in a dream. Or this person appeared to me. Or I felt like so-and-so was looking over my shoulder. And I used to kind of wonder, this is crazy. What in the world is that about? Till I read Hebrews and looked at the word. There's no way around it. We're surrounded by a crowd of witnesses. They are encircling us. I think they have access to heaven. They can do whatever they want. They can fly around. Solomon had a dream about my mom, and he asked her, among other things, what have you been doing? Because she's been upstairs for quite a while. And she said, well, I've been doing a lot of traveling. I was just recently in France. I could believe it in a heartbeat. Now, you might not believe this. Maybe you will. It doesn't matter. When our beloved church member Charlie passed away, not long after he passed away, I saw him over my left shoulder. He was smiling like he swallowed the sun. Another one of our members had passed away in the last little while. It was, I think, the very day I heard about it. I'm driving, and out of the corner of my eye, he's in the car with me. And I thought, what are you doing here? You're gone. He's right over my left shoulder, and I'm driving, and he just kind of leaned over, and I looked, and he's got this blue military suit. And I thought, you were never in the service. What's this about? And all he said was, smiling again like Charlie, like he swallowed the sun, looked to be about 30 years of age, which he wasn't. He was more than double that. Anyway, he looks at me and he says, thank you for training me for service. And my goosebumps got goosebumps. I thought, what on earth? Training you for service? And then I realized it was like a military outfit or like a policeman. Maybe that's what he's doing as part of his after this life work. I don't know. I feel like Red Skelton. I just do them. I don't explain them. But think about this. It's not just God's power, God's rod, real or symbolic, but it's God's tribe, his people group that are all around us that help us out. I don't remember Doc calling for me or whinnying or anything. I saw him. I thought, well, why aren't you down here? I thought, you know what? He's a geezer now. I'll just bring the food to him. Joe's Deli, I deliver. And God does that for you. He does that for me. I'm not even going to ask for a show of hands, either here or people watching or listening, because they'd all go up. How many of us have often felt like we're it? It all depends on us. Or, gosh, this is horrific. No one's ever been through what I'm going through. Oh, my days. I never heard of anything like this. I've never even read about it. No one's been where I'm at. And guess what? Everybody's been there, and probably to a lot worse than what we're going through, right? But we lose sight of it. And I think sometimes we even miss our day of visitation. God's put someone in our lives to lift a heavy load or to help us carry it, and we don't really get it. So we keep kind of struggling on our own rather than just taking the help that's being offered. I feel like many of us are sort of like Elijah. Yahweh, here I am. I'm the Lord's frozen chosen. I'm the only one left. And what did Yahweh say? Guess what? I got 7,000 reserves I can call up anytime I want to. Just keep on keeping on, son. You're not alone. And that's the good news here. His stick, his staff, his scepter, his piece of wood, his sign of authority, yes, but that word can also mean tribe or people group. And I'll take both. How about you? Wait a minute, Pastor, you're almost at 30 minutes. What about this return to sender deal? We're getting there. We're getting there. Hang on to your hat. If you don't have one, buy one. Put it on. Here it is. You are preparing a table before me, before my adversaries. Wow. I'm supposed to be fighting, and you're telling me I can be feasting? How does that work? You are preparing a table before me, before my adversaries. I like this version. In front of my haters. Christian people for 2,000 years are not loved and embraced by everyone. Sometimes they're hated by others. Sometimes to the point of bodily harm or, God forbid, assassination has happened to our dear brother that went to heaven. There's a price for standing for God and for His truth. Sometimes we seal our testimony with our own blood. The 70 has it, them that are afflicting me. So all of this, however you want to look at it, haters, adversaries, people afflicting me, it's all persecution, but for righteousness' sake. And I think that's important to remind ourselves of too. This is not being given trouble for something you did wrong, like a sentence in jail or something. I remember one fellow that professed to be a Christian, whether he was or wasn't, I don't know. I went to visit him when he was in Stir, and we're talking back and forth, and he's quoting some Bible verses. And like I say, I don't know whether he's really saved or not, but I thought, well, I'll visit him. And he shook his head, He went like this. He said, I don't know why the Lord has me here. I didn't say it, but I'm thinking, well, brother, I don't think the Lord had anything to do with it. I think you're where you are because of what you did. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about persecution for righteousness' sake, being put upon because of something good we do, not getting the just deserts of our wrongdoing. We're coming in for landing now. Here's the text now. You have made my head, this is literally what the text reads. You have made my head fat with the oil. In other words, there's so much oil pouring over you that you're just absolutely covered with it. Like when they're anointed, for a new office in the Lord's work. You're just anointed like that. Another version has it, my cup something that overflows. And I like this one. Here's the 70. You have thoroughly anointed my head with oil, and your cup cheers me like the best wine. Once again, feasting while fighting. We're not losing. We're not being hurt. We're being built up. And, you and I can have that anytime we want. There you are. There I am in a chair, lying across the bed, driving, in an office someplace, wherever. And we're communing with the Holy Spirit. We have no idea what we're talking about. That doesn't matter. We don't have to know. And he might be solving a problem in China through your prayers, through mine. He might be saving someone from death in hospital across the country. And we don't know anything about it. Barb came home from the barn today. I was in my recliner chair. I just finished some praying. We were talking a little bit. She said, boy, you sound a little different. I said, is that good or bad? She said, no, good. Something good happened to you? And I said, well, a little while ago, my prayer language changed when I was praying. That usually means some kind of problem has been solved or whatever. And I don't know what it was. I know what I'd like it to be. And I got an email from someone that's good news maybe. But something good had happened. This is the way it works. And here again now, we come in for the landing. Maybe the Lord saved the best for last. Surely goodness and steadfast love, they will be pursuing me all the days of my life. Isn't that a picture? We're often chasing the rainbow, or we're chasing more finance, or we're chasing the right woman or the right guy, whatever, we're trying to get married, man or woman. And we're chasing this, and we're chasing that, and we're chasing a better job, or chasing the job improvement or elevation of some kind. And this is saying, you know what? You don't have to do that so much. These things will chase you. When God gets involved, He's running after us. We don't have to run after Him. The 70 has it, each and every one of the days. Surely goodness and steadfast love, they will be pursuing me all the days of my life. The 70 says, each and every one of the days. Here's the last line in this text. This is the way it reads in the Hebrew text. Psalm 23. And I will permanently return into the temple of Yahweh forever. What? Would you read that again, Pastor? Sure. And I will permanently return unto the temple of Yahweh forever. Well, how does that work? So I started out in the temple of Yahweh, spent some time on earth, and I'm returning to where I started out. That sounds almost like the pre-existence of the human soul. Well, I don't know, beloved. The Bible doesn't really say, but the Bible talks an awful lot about you and me and every true believer being set aside from the foundation of the world and promised things from the foundation of the world. So we'll understand it better by and by. The early church fathers went back and forth on that whole concept, but I think this is a beautiful picture, regardless of what it literally means. I will permanently return unto the temple of Yahweh forever. Isn't that good news? So Psalm 23, again, is a bell ringer. I'm really, really glad that I had the idea, and I'll give him another two seconds of fame. And I had the idea because of something that occurred to me when my little boy was not in his stall, and I didn't have to, but decided to go up on the side of the paddock and do a delivery for him so the little dude wouldn't have to get up off his haunches and walk for it. Any questions, input, or output about this? You want to see the picture again? I'll put it back up. Oh, you want to just look at it that way? Yeah. Yeah, I've got the original of this in my office. I don't know how old I was when this was taken. I'm older than dirt now, but this was a while ago. So everybody okay? Did this help anybody tonight? I hope so. I hope it's an encouragement. Was it? Yeah. Does it matter, do you think?
No, I'm sorry. I was thinking out loud. That's why the trees look funny.
Oh, okay, cool. So, praise the Lord. We're going to come around the Lord's table tonight. I try to remember this when I can. When we come around the Lord's table, if you're poorly tonight, some sort of physical complaint, it's a really good time to release your faith through the bread and the cup, that the Lord's body heals ours and his blood cleanses ours. Take the offering. If you have an offering tonight, that's great. Baskets here, one in the foyer. Watching long distance, and you'd like to partner with us, Givelify or PayPal at the main website, gtm.org.